And it says we're live. All right. So, since we don't have Ian today, we have Sanford standing in for Cedar and Ian. So, support the blanket fort. Need money for air conditioning badly. It's only supposed to be 99 today. And as always, coffee. King Arv's Imperial Coffees. Damn good stuff.
Wakes me up in the morning.
Yeah, buy it. You'll like it. And last but not least, Among the Leaves Tees. Monkey T-shirts, friend of ours. Let them know you heard about it here. So today, we're trying something a little different. Well, so far we're being successful with the different. We do have guests today. Gordon and Nancy Frye out of the far left coast, way up north. And I will bring them in momentarily. Dazzle camo, yeah. Anyway, Gordon and Nancy are a pair. They are historians. They're both actors, although I've never understood the difference between actor and actress and why an actress will want to be lumped with an actor, but that's a whole different story. They've also been in a number of movies. Nancy is also an author. Gordon probably also is an author, but in different historical environments. And they are both experts in a number of very unusual things. So without further ado, Gordon and Nancy.
Hello. Unusual things from somebody that's associated with this group.
Yeah, what a surprise.
Well, the first thing I want to do is talk about the coffee, since there are a couple of former Navy folks on here with me, and I see Gordon has his cup.
Got me too.
Basically, since they had steam power on ships, Navy ships especially, the coffee pots were usually 100 cup, stood about 4.5 feet high, and they were made with bleed steam off of the boilers. So usually it was around 300 psi. So you did not want to get between the coffee pot and the steam coming off the line until the entire pot was perked.
Ooh.
Yeah. Had a tendency to be a tad dangerous. But it was definitely hot and black.
Considering 200 psi is enough in an autoclave to reach the temperatures to kill all the microbes and stuff, I can see that.
Yeah. And the Navy would put salt in the coffee to, quote unquote, cut down on the bitterness, which if you have ever had bitter coffee like Starbucks,
Yeah,
you
that's
put a
called
little
burnt.
yeah, put a little salt in it, and it'll take some of the bitterness out.
Oh, okay.
Some of it, yeah. So anyway, Nancy, Gordon, if y'all want to introduce yourselves further.
Well, I guess I'll go first. Nancy Frye. I'm, like Jim says, I'm experimenting with being a writer. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. I did graduate from the University of Washington a long time ago with a drama degree. So I've done a lot of stuff, mostly behind, off stage or behind the camera, but I like acting too. And other than writing these days, one of the things I'm doing is I got drafted into a rock cover band. So I'm singing and playing keyboards in a rock band, which is, what like you do. So that's kind of fun. And then Gordon is the actual historian guy with the big brains of the outfit here.
Well, I was a history professor for a while. COVID killed that one because I can't stand the idea of teaching online. But I'm sort of a unicorn too. I was a military contractor for Hollywood. And again, I was a history professor, and I presently work in a gun store. So that's kind of an unusual series of events.
Yeah, but it just feeds your expertise in a number of fields too.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of weird, interesting things, and it's always fun to when somebody, when I'm working in a gun store, telling people the reasons for things working the way they do, because most people are completely at sea as to, well, why does this do this? Why is
Yeah,
45 so much better than 9? Well, it's not, but it sure sounds good.
yeah.
And this is the reasons we use 45.
It's all about accuracy and shot placement.
Well,
Exactly.
but I will say that feeling better about the round you're using helps. When I say that, if you've got confidence in it, you're a lot more likely to be paying attention to that shot placement than you are if you're. If I was going up against somebody and I had 25 automatic, which is a round that I consider absolutely worthless, I would just be, well, if I get enough into them, it'll help.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the 22 works.
Much
Here's a
better
fun
than
fact.
25.
Here's a fun fact. So if you're using a 45, or if you're a poor shot, use a 45, because the greater the distance between impact points, the better the shock value. And
Yeah.
if you're a good shot, a 9 can be closer and have more effect, shock value
Right.
effect on your target. So if you're a really good shot, use a 9. If you're a really bad shot, use a 45.
Yeah.
Oh.
The other thing with the 45, it's like me, it's old, slow, and fat. So,
Well, that works too.
yeah. But I did get in a, shall we say, disagreement last night with an idiot
Of course, he'd have to be to disagree with you.
over saddles and horses.
Uh-oh. I want to hear this.
No, Kermit, you do not have room for a 300 cup pot. Maybe at work, not at your house.
We could remodel it for a coffee room.
Yeah, he said that we should not be riding horses, A, and that B, there was no such thing as a properly fitted saddle.
Oh, bullpucky.
Yeah,
Okay. Does he want horses to disappear from the face of the earth? Because
Uh,
if we didn't ride them, they'd be gone.
he
Should we
is.
go back to the dawn horse and little tiny things that
Yeah.
bears can eat? I mean,
Or we could eat them.
or we can eat them. I
Yeah.
guess.
We'd be French.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be French with a lot of sauces.
Uh,
But I was trying to explain to him that, the progression of saddles from the European saddle to the Western saddle to the McClellan saddle and the differences between them and why they were done that way. And all he could say was, well, none of those fit horses.
Well, this is great.
Okay.
So the U.S. Cavalry with the McClellan saddle actually issued the saddle to the horse because they would have an expert saddler fit the
Right.
saddle to the horse, and that saddle stayed with that horse. So
Exactly.
yes, indeed, they did fit them to the horses.
Yep, and they all had the pommel mark for the
Mhm.
size of the saddle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trying to explain to him the difference between the McClellan, which is a lightweight, very lightweight saddle,
Very light.
designed for a rider, horse more than rider,
Mhm.
because they were not a comfortable saddle to ride.
Oh, I don't know. I like
I like
them.
them, but yeah,
Well,
you got to have one
maybe
that's fitted to the horse.
you don't have body parts that get banged around in a McClellan like we do.
I do too. You just got to wear your pants tight enough.
The more you know.
No comment.
if I wear my pants that tight, I speak in a high voice.
But the Mexican saddle or Western saddle actually came from Mexico in the 1600s.
Mhm.
And it was an entirely different design because it was designed more to protect the rider and the horse. And it was also the advent of the wooden stirrup because they did not have as much iron in Mexico as they did in Europe And in the U.S., well, nowadays U.S. didn't exist, but the graduation through the Mexican saddle into the Western saddle was a whole different thing, because if you look at a McClellan, it has no horn. It has a pommel, and it has all kinds of strapping, holes in the tree. The tree is the base of the saddle.
Yep.
And it has
They're
a very
nice minimal saddle, and I
Yeah.
just find them really comfy. But yeah.
Well, the interesting progression though was that the McClellan, because it's descended from the Mexican saddle too, because it's a wooden tree covered in rawhide, so that the rawhide will stretch and shrink based on the humidity.
right.
It is just like the Mexican saddle and the Western saddle. But the Mexican saddle comes from a Spanish saddle, which originally comes from a Moorish saddle or
Yep.
North African saddle. And the wooden stirrups come from that because, of course, like you said, iron was expensive and wood's cheap. So all of these things is very interesting compared to the European saddle or English saddle, which is very, very, very different. And they'll fall apart in a Western climate because the wood dries out and just comes apart.
As people continue to learn even today.
And there's something like
Yes,
a
they do.
Western saddle or a Mexican saddle, it's designed to work from. It's designed to rope from.
Yeah.
And to take shocks. If you tried to tie off to a 2,000-pound longhorn bull with a McClellan saddle, you'd probably wind up riding on the ground for a while.
Well, there's nowhere to dally off to on a
Yeah.
McClellan for one thing. And
You do hard and fast, and that's a bad idea.
yeah,
Texans eventually.
you're gonna
learned
watch your saddle go downrange.
Yeah.
that. I've
With
chased
the-
bulls in an English saddle, or actually it was a German saddle. I've chased bulls around, and it is exciting. And most of the cowboys laugh at you because they've never seen such a horrible thing.
But the other thing is there are different seats.
Mhm.
And he was going, well, that's the horse gets the seat. And I said, no. The rider gets the seat. And they're designed differently depending on what you're doing with the saddle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he just,
So was this person all bent out of shape because they'd seen poorly fitted saddles and they were mad at people?
I think he was from PETA.
Oh, so he was just talking out of his behinder.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I've seen poorly fitted saddles, and and you get people who like, I'm gonna go do Civil War reenacting, and I've got this, 100-year-old saddle that I'm gonna put on my modern horse, and horses have changed body type over the years.
Yeah.
Just like we have.
And they're too narrow. Our horses are a little chonkier now. If you put a narrow tree on a horse, it's going to poke them right in the shoulders. You got something that actually fits their barrel.
Yeah. Yeah, Rick, this was a discussion on a side channel that I was involved with. And we don't know where the hell this asshole came from. But
His radar went off. There's somebody I could annoy. I sense it.
well, up in Clarendon, there's a museum up there, little small museum that has probably 30 or 40 saddles in it with the saddle makers
Oh, neat.
and where they came from. And that's J.A. Ranch territory. So some of them go back to the mid 1800s. They've also got a couple of real McClellans up there in the museum.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a big difference between a roping saddle and a cutting saddle and a riding saddle.
Absolutely.
And there's a big difference between a mule saddle and a horse saddle.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep. The one thing about a McClellan, too, you got to remember, again, not only was it designed for the horse's comfort, not yours, but it was designed to carry a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Because according to Army regulations, the horse wasn't supposed to carry more than about 225 pounds total.
Yep.
Which means your rider is going to be a small fellow. Basically any of us are going to be naked on the horse with a pistol, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And but a cavalryman is supposed to be really no more than 160 pounds. Of course, most cowboys weren't more than that either.
Yeah.
But then you get a 35-pound or 50-pound Western saddle, and boy, you can't carry much.
Yeah.
If you want to keep under that level. And of course, horses were tiny too. Texas horses, most Texans were riding what were basically Mustangs, and they were 15 hands at best.
Yeah.
Whereas a Western horse, or pardon me, an Eastern horse is going to be more like 16.
Yeah.
It can carry a lot more stuff.
Well, and not only that, you start getting into the horse breeds.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that discussion could go on for days. if not more.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yep. Everybody's got their favorite.
And depends on what you want to use it for.
Absolutely.
If
Don't use it drafty for chasing cattle.
Yeah.
If I just wanted something to get me from A to B in no hurry with a bunch of stuff, and I couldn't have a pack horse, I look for a Percheron. For one thing,
They eat a lot. They eat a lot.
Yeah, that they do.
I'm just saying that it's big enough.
Oh yeah.
Whereas if you put me on a 14-hand Arabian,
Yeah.
I'm all that's going to want to carry.
And
Those Arabians, those guys have so much energy. Oh my word. You ride them 50 miles and they're just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
Of course,
But
most of
they
them are crazy too.
Yeah, they are smart and crazy.
Yeah.
And then of course you get into your thoroughbreds and your quarter horses. That's yet another world. Yeah, trots are probably the most comfortable on bareback. But that does remind me of something else. The classic Western movie trope of the horses running for miles at a full-out gallop. Ain't going to happen.
Nope.
The horse would fall over dead.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know of one case where a guy rode a horse 75 miles at a gallop, but that was because he was being chased by Apaches. And he had really good reason to.
Yeah.
But that was a racehorse that could do it, and he knew how to husband his resources there.
Yeah.
But yeah, running most horses any length of time is a bad idea. And the Army, in fact, the cavalry would, every hour you'd go from a walk to a trot to a canter and then back down to a walk, and then you got dismounted and walked.
Yeah. What I remember being taught as a youngster riding was no more than 3 miles.
She pulled out my saddle, my McClellan.
That's McClellan.
Yeah. And I modified it to be the pattern after the 1872 model, but there's not much to it. It's very minimalist, but you can put a lot on it.
And this is what Jim's talking about. This is what the middle of it looks like.
Yeah.
But that cools the horse's back too.
Yeah. That you would not be holding a Western saddle in one hand.
No.
Okay.
Notice I didn't run up from the barn with a Western saddle.
Yeah.
Sadly, the little shield that goes there with the number on it is missing it. I think my belt ripped it off at some point when I was dismounting. But anyways, there's a nice little McClellan.
Yeah, and you can see from that just how minimalist that saddle really is. There's no side skirts.
Nope.
It's basically a tree covered in rawhide with straps. That's it.
It has lots of nice little attachment points. You can see the little grommets in the back here. And then there's a little hook here, and
that your saddlebags attach on.
And there's like little rings and more little bars to attach things to. I mean, you can attach a lot of stuff to this, but there's no pommel. You're not roping off of this.
Yeah. Well, it's got a pommel. It doesn't have a horn.
Yeah.
Right,
It has no horn. It has a pommel and a cantle.
Yeah.
But no horn.
And you can see how deep that seat really is.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like sitting on a little English postage stamp, but it's nice.
But I'll bring some saddles when we do our little class at Riders Cantina. I've got a nice probably about 1915 saddle made by Lawrence Saddlery in Portland, which is very much a buckaroo saddle, and that thing you don't get on, you get in.
Yeah.
It is very high.
Yeah, you don't need a seat belt for that one. You're down in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what it was designed for.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And the trouble is when you get on that thing and the horse wants, you might want to leave the horse. You generally don't. You get to come crashing down with him.
Well, I have never had a chance to do it, even though I rode cutting horses, but to ride a true cutting saddle, because they have a different saddle horn than a roping saddle. Because the top of the horn where it comes up and flat on a roping saddle is about 2.5, 3 inches. On a cutting saddle, it's about 2 inches, maybe less.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And of course, the Mexican saddles have that big dinner plate size, you know, horn on there, which I discovered when a horse tried to buck me off and I caught my finger underneath it and dislocated my pinky.
Ow.
Luckily, that one of the guys I was riding with was a retired Navy corpsman, and he said, "Let me look at that."
Snap.
Said, yeah, I think because it was literally sticking out like that, and he said, "What's that over there?" And I went, "What?" And he went, "Yerk." There, tie it together. You're good.
As Don says, yes, a cutting saddle horn is a grip because you're going to be grabbing on and holding on for dear life. If you want to stay in the saddle.
It's a good place to set your coffee cup on those Mexican ones.
Oh, the Mexican saddles are great because you put a mirror on there and you could admire yourself while you're riding along.
You mean
I have seen that.
No,
it's true.
Yeah.
Oh,
rather than crutches, it was covered in mirrors.
Yeah, no, they're very cool. I love the Mexican rodeos where they're doing the horse roping and they dally and they let it just smoke as it pays out. That is just so cool.
Yeah, they've got rodeos. One saddle up in Clarendon almost is cut through on the horn.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys were talking about when I was running down to the barn, but that ding dong who was saying, you know, horses shouldn't be ridden and saddles are evil. And I mean, if you're really that worried about it, you can buy a modern saddle right now that's so flexy, it's almost like nothing. And the horse barely even feel it. It just gives you a place to hang some stirrups off of.
Yeah. Well, I think I got him with a comment that said, 150 years ago and 100 years ago, we were using horses to pull things. Now the horses get to ride in the damn trailer.
Yeah.
Exactly. I guess they're related to cats or something.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is, if we didn't have a use for horses, riding, roping, cutting, whatever, they'd be gone. The only reason why cattle exist is because they taste good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The only reason horses exist is because we have a use for them. When the time comes where we do not have a use for horses, they will become extinct, just like a lot of the other creatures have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there's a great quote, of course, from a Californio. It said, Texans use horses to herd cattle. Californians use cattle to train their horses. So it's cattle and horses will still be around. It's just if you're not eating them, you just use them for fun.
Yeah. Well, and then you got to start figuring in the cost of them.
Yeah.
Well, it's rich people's sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, if you took every saddle horse and cart horse out and just said, be free, and turned them loose in the Wild West, we've bred the smarts out of them. They would not do well.
Yeah. Rick brings up a good point. The science fiction trope is that horses off Earth are zoo animals, if they even exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only exception to that being those who say, well, you know, you take embryos to space and then you grow them and breed them in order to have something that, because you don't have the technology on the planet you're going to for pioneering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
grow square watermelons like the Japanese do, except go square horses or square cattle.
Well, I was just thinking that science fiction trope. It's like what a brilliant idea, especially if you're doing, generation ships or long planning kind of stories. It's like, instead of having mechanized vehicles to explore and get around, you breed horses, which can go anywhere and do anything. And hence why they were using them, say, in Afghanistan for special forces troops.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still have horse cavalry.
Yep.
Not much, but we still have it.
One of the
Yeah,
things,
and they still ride McClellan saddles, as a matter of fact.
Mhm.
Not,
Oh yeah.
not broke, don't fix.
Yeah, well, the troop, they have the troop at Fort Huachuca, which not only is ceremonial, but they do patrols,
Yeah.
horse patrols, and because Fort Huachuca is a nasty, nasty place.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not conducive to, picnics.
Anything.
Yeah. But also, of course, they have the artillery, a couple of artillery batteries that are mounted at Fort Sill, and of course for Arlington.
Yeah.
They have to have them. They're all riding McClellans on draft horses.
Those are special trees.
Actually, the old guard finally got their act together, and the caissons are back at Arlington,
Oh, good.
and that happened earlier this year because they had serious issues with the care and feeding of the horses, and they had to bring in a veterinarian, basically, who is now there as a duty officer
Oh, good.
to make sure that the horses actually get taken care of.
Good.
Yes, the Border Patrol does still ride horses. They have a horse detachment. I want to say it's not out of El Paso, or is it? No, it is out of El Paso sector. And I want to say there's another one down in Arizona.
Well, yeah, there's the Huachuca one. Oh,
Yeah,
you mean Border
Huachuca.
Patrol? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also, at least until recently, I don't know if they still do, but Marines on the Big Island of Hawaii had a horse patrol using McClellan saddles. So
Yeah.
you actually do have horse Marines on Hawaii, or did. Captain Jinks and all that.
Yeah. And Huachuca was where they had the Camel Corps, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Davis's Camel Corps
How do you spell Huachuca?
with an H.
HU.
Huachuca.
Like that? Huachuca.
I don't know where you're writing it. Oh, yeah.
Here.
That's it. Yep.
Okay.
Huachuca.
Okay. Because it sounds like, it should start with a W, but,
Yeah, Spanish.
Fort Huachuca.
Oh, Kermit corrected me. Every border patrol station on the southern border, except the highway checkpoints, has a horse patrol unit.
Oh,
Thank you.
good.
As they should.
Yeah.
Good.
well, Huachuca reminds me of the fact that it seems like the military has always found the least desirable spot to build any post. The Army, that was
Yeah.
their thing.
This is a
If-
question
if you-
for you, Gordo. Did the Germans mostly?
Yeah, Rick T asks about didn't the Germans mostly use horses for transport in World War II? And that is very true.
Yeah.
So did the Russians.
Yeah.
But the Germans, they had the fantasy of being very mechanized, but they weren't.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a German World War II saddle that's very comfortable. It's a very nice saddle that, we would call it English, but it's German. But they used a lot of horses in World War
Yeah,
II.
they actually went, if I remember correctly, they went after the Lipizanos,
Yes.
and the people smuggled them out into, I want to say, Switzerland before the Germans could come get them.
Patton sent a flying column to rescue them.
Yeah.
Because they figured the Russians would get them and they just eat them.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, the Lipizzaners, there's a lot. Boy, those are cool horses.
Well, they're the original war horse.
Absolutely. And all those airs above ground and stuff are designed for kicking infantrymen.
Designed to kill people.
yeah. They literally jump up in the air and kick out with all 4 feet at once.
Yeah.
That's not just for funsy acrobatics.
Yeah, when a mounted knight on a mounted horse in the middle of a 4,000 man pike square of infantry doing that, and those guys are getting out of the way.
Yeah.
The knight is just there to protect the horse.
I cannot imagine trying to keep a seat on that thing.
Well, it's
Exciting.
really easy. Once you get the
Gotta
foot
ride.
wheel,
But it's interesting. I mean, that whole thing of the horse as the weapon lasts forever, because even Jack Hayes of the Texas Rangers in the Mexican-American War, he said, let the bone and muscle of your horses be your weapon.
Yeah.
So, charging in and just knocking the other guy's horse down, you win.
Kermit brings up a good point. Heavy cavalry was the tank before the internal combustion engine.
Absolutely. You figure a fully
the
mounted
Jeep.
man on a fully mounted on a fully armored man on a fully armored horse. You know, the fantasy of the infantry guy with the big sword stepping aside to cut its legs off. There's too many people there. You know, you've got 4,000 guys crammed together. You're not stepping aside for anything.
Yep.
You're just getting run over.
And you get, you know, 2 tons of horse and man in armor coming charging at you at 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Bad things happen.
Exactly. And it's, you know, Richard says chariots. Yeah. They go back to Rome.
Yeah.
You know, they go back prior to that.
Chariots are a big deal. I mean, you've got chariots and your enemy does not. That's that. Talk about
It's a force
arm
multiplier.
Yeah. Exactly. Because now you've got one horse or 2 horses that carry not only weapons, but also have the capability to take out other horses.
and get in and out real fast.
Yeah.
And if you're up on a raised platform, you've got the high ground. And the chariots, people see the Ben-Hur or whatever, and they think the guy driving it. And there's not enough room in that chariot for anything else.
That's just
The chariot
the
was
driver.
a wagon.
Yeah.
It usually had a minimum of 2 fighting men plus the driver.
Yeah.
You got your archers in there.
So Rick T is also correct here about the English using longbows to basically against the horses, which is why the French eventually, within a few years, totally armored up their horses.
Yep.
And so they were completely immune to longbows. And that's when the English started losing the 100 Years' War.
Yeah. But they kicked their ass at Waterloo.
Different war.
There were, who kicked whose ass? Everybody got their asses kicked at Waterloo.
Yeah.
But unarmored horses going up against projectile weapons doesn't work so good.
Yeah. And Robert Cruz makes a good point. The Wehrmacht used more draft horses for Barbarossa in 1941 than the Imperial Germans used for Kaisernacht in 1918. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Really?
Well, of course, they had to travel a lot further.
Yeah.
Than Barbarossa. Most of those poor guys in 1918, the Spring Offensive, were just walking.
Explain Barbarossa to the uninitiated.
Oh, that was the German invasion of Russia.
Yeah.
1941.
German stupidity in 1941.
Well,
I don't know. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that that Hitler basically jumped the gun on Stalin, and Stalin was getting ready to invade Germany.
Yeah.
Because he had all his forces pre-positioned way close to the border, their then border that had been Poland.
Yeah.
And you don't do that if you're expecting somebody to attack you. You don't put all your forces right up front.
Yeah, but you gotta feel for the poor Polish people. They got run over.
They got run over back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that was Polish history.
Yeah.
Yes.
Polish is a nice plane for invasion from the east to the west, or vice versa.
Yeah, same for the Russians. They get Mongols, they get Poles, they get French, they get Germans.
Speaking of cavalry,
Yeah. Good cavalry
they
country.
have great cavalry.
Oh, the Poles were just absolutely amazing though with cavalry. They're winged hussars. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing stuff.
And the Polish pilots today have that same mentality.
Yes. Oh, and Eric Norman says, yeah, Suvorov talks about that invasion stuff. It's very interesting.
The winged hussars have entered the chat.
Yeah. Vienna is safe yet again.
Yes, history is an amazing thing. And
oh boy.
More people should read it.
yes.
Yeah, those who ignore history repeat its mistakes. Those who don't read history those who do read history watch other people repeat its mistakes.
Yeah.
Having at one point served in the Fulda Gap when it was considered a possible war band, I'm a little more appreciative of what openings from one country to another are for.
Yep.
My life expectancy was 0.3 seconds.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
No,
Well, at least
that
you were a second lieutenant, it'd be less.
no, actually, where I was, I was expected to be the first person in my unit to die.
Oh, lucky you.
Oh,
You didn't have to die of radiation poisoning then.
No, who knows what was going to kill me because it was all coming over right over my position.
well, over is good. Over is nice instead of on.
Yeah, when it's going over, it never goes over. There's always short stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine had an interesting comment about that. He was jumping forward to World War III. He was flying off the America, and they did a strike into Lebanon. This is back in the 80s. And he was leading the Flight A7s, the lieutenant commander at the time. And he said, well, what about the anti-aircraft batteries? And he got told, oh, they'll be taken out by something else. So as he leads the strike up the valley, the anti-aircraft batteries are blowing up ahead of him.
So you see my evil plan, AJ.
So they get up there, conduct a strike, get back out, land on the boat. He goes into debrief and says, what other asset was flying tonight? And he said the intel officer got a big shit-eating grin and went, Volkswagens. And he went, Volkswagens? He says, yeah, 2,700 pounds at a time. USS New Jersey.
Jersey. Yeah.
They were firing over them into the AAA batteries.
Nice to have support.
Yeah, Parrish said he just went back and shook for half an hour after that.
Yeah, I've had a couple of friends who had support fire from, either New Jersey or Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And they said it was pretty impressive. You get lifted up and thrown down when you're quite a ways away.
Yeah.
Well,
they had
what
2,700 pound charge at 20 plus miles with a circular area probability of 100 yards. So they were pretty damn accurate, all things considered.
Oh, yeah.
And contrary to the popular meme out there, if they fired a full broadside, the ship did not move. Kitty cat number 2.
Yes, this is Rigel.
He's the king.
Yeah.
Demanded attention.
He almost looks like Grumpy Cat with that facial expression.
I am not grumpy.
Yeah, he's in charge.
Yeah.
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 Wisconsin, temper. Yes, that supposedly is a true story.
There was a friend who sadly passed away during COVID stuff, but an older gentleman who had been a Marine Scout sniper in Korea. And he said he watched a mountain disappear with a broadside from one of those.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty impressive.
Well, 2,700 pounds HE times
9 of them.
That'll rearrange your atoms.
Yeah, it rearranged things significantly.
You done?
See that hill? Remove it. Yes, that's exactly what they did, Don.
I've never been near the impact area of a 16-inch gun, but I have near an 8-inch gun.
Yeah.
And since I know that the progression on when you go up sizes and shells is more geometric rather than arithmetic.
Yeah, it's logarithmic. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to be anywhere near the grid square that gets a 16-inch gun landing on it.
Yeah. Yes. Sir Brass brings up the Texas in World War II in close and D-Day. They actually ballasted down and rolled the ship to get more angle and elevation on the guns.
That works.
Yeah.
That works.
Navy's done a lot of strange stuff over the years for various reasons.
That's more colorful than what I had my guys do in my Space Cowboy story. I had them dig out from underneath the trail on the howitzer so they could get more elevation.
It's been done too.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't the first time that ever happened.
Yeah.
What grid square?
Yeah. Artillery stuff is very interesting. The mathematics, it was way beyond me when I tried it.
Yeah. A friend of mine was a former enlisted went in because his daddy, who was at the time, light colonel, was pissed because he was failing out of college. And daddy was the naval attaché in Cuba and getting ready to come home. So Richard went and enlisted in the army to get away from daddy and ended up in Germany.
I don't want people telling me what to do. I'm joining the military.
So he went to Germany as an enlisted cannon cocker. Did his 4 years, came back, went on school on GI Bill, got a degree, went back in the army, back into artillery. His first duty station was back in Germany, the same place he'd been as an enlisted. And
Join the army, see the world.
yeah, tells the story. He said, yeah, they made me as a second lieutenant, a battery commander.
Oh,
And
okay.
one of the things that they had to do is something called snapshot, which is where they wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You get in your motorized howitzer and haul ass to the gun range and shoot. And he and his driver in the Jeep, he threw his briefcase in the back, haul ass to the range. And they get there and he looks for the briefcase and it's not there.
Oh, shoot.
Firing solutions and all that.
It bounced out.
Yeah, all the firing solutions. So he said, I knew the range. I knew where the range marks
Right
were.
down the barrel.
That's basically what he did. He sighted where his gun had been. He knew the sighting angle
Good.
in the elevation, sighted that gun and said, everybody else read off of him. And they fired and got a qualified. About the time the colonel in charge drove up in his Jeep
With the
with
briefcase.
the briefcase. And Richard said, he asked him, said, son, how the fuck did you do that? And he said, well, sir, it was a piece of string and a compass. Said the colonel just did the old final salute, turned around and walked off.
Talk about reading history. I mean, it worked. It worked in the 16th century. Why not now?
So for fun artillery stories, my brother-in-law, first time around, he was a second lieutenant in the signals company, or pardon me, signals platoon for a artillery outfit in Korea. They were doing a big, a briefing, and the general was there, and he's demanding from this captain, well, I only see 3 of your guns here on this photograph, this our intelligence photograph. Where's the other ones? Oh, they haven't been camouflaged yet, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Can only see the camouflaged ones.
Well, people don't believe how accurate naval guns are.
Oh, they're incredible.
Going back to the battleship days, the Iowa class literally had aiming devices and spotting devices built by General Motors, and they were analog computers.
Absolutely.
They were literally based on geared teeth, and they were actually more accurate. Even when the New Jersey and the Iowa were brought out of the White Fleet back into commission, those analog computers were still more accurate than radar plotting off the mast. The advances have been so good that now the small boys, and I could say a small boy, frigates, destroyers, and I know specifically a frigate because I was on it, are so accurate they can shoot the cable off the tow plane with a 5-inch 54.
Wow.
They got bored.
Watch this.
This was out in Westpac. It was the Vandegrift, and they were having to shoot for qualification for a gunnery qual. So they hit the the trailing tape with everything they had, and they had a couple of rounds left. So just for grins, they shot at the cable endpoint where it connected to the streamer and took it off. And the Learjet that was towbird said, "We quit. We're going home. Bye."
Well, muzzleloading artillery is pretty darn accurate too.
Yeah.
You know, Taylor Anderson, who does the Destroyerman series and whatnot,
Yes.
and the Artilleryman series, he's a big time muzzleloading cannon enthusiast, and he was at a shoot at Fort Sill, and it was, I don't remember the range. It was pretty good, a pretty decent range, but the Army let him shoot at it was a DM56 APC.
Yeah.
And it had a really cool towing ring, you know, on the back of it. And he said, "I want that thing." So
Taylor wanted it.
And they said, "Yeah, you can have whatever whatever's not destroyed. So go ahead and shoot at it." So the other guys are shooting at the APC and sending, 6 or 12-pound iron balls right through it. But he wanted that thing. So at 1,000 yards or something,
Yeah.
he aimed his cannon, his artillery piece. He built a match grade carriage for it. So,
Yeah.
he's one of those guys. Anyway, so he shot the thing, and at 1,000 yards, he hit the base of the towing ring and knocked it off, and later went and found it, took it home.
Well, one
It's
thing
wild stuff.
a lot of people don't realize is one of the reasons why naval guns were always more accurate, because naval guns were usually larger.
They're very
I'm
big.
not talking about siege guns they had on the walls, but field artillery, the stuff that got drug around by horses, had to be smaller.
Yeah.
Very.
And a larger piece tends to be more accurate in artillery, because you get a whole lot less wind over the distance of 5 miles, or wind issues over the distance of 5 miles if you got a heavy gun, a 16-inch gun, as opposed to a 100-millimeter gun.
Even today, a 155 is basically a 6-inch.
Yeah.
And naval guns, that's a light cruiser size.
Yeah.
And real ships like New Jersey class with 16-inch guns, or the Japanese with their 18 inches. That's big.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my uncles, when he was on a destroyer, he was part of the torpedo run against the Japanese fleet at Philippine Sea. And one of it must have been the Musashi shells went past them. And he was on an anti-aircraft gun, and it threw him. I mean, it didn't even hit their ship. It went past their ship, and
Yep.
the weight threw him up against the bulkhead and gave him a very bloody nose.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the blast off of them is impressive, to put it mildly. Because, and you talk about wind impact, wind moving around. Moving around laterally or vertically.
Yes.
Move it around.
Around.
Move it around,
Yeah.
around.
That much weight, it's going to take a hurricane, and it's not going to even affect it at
That's
all.
not big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinetics.
Yeah, that's the trouble with round ball cannon, round ball rifles, whatever, is spheres are really not very efficient.
Aerodynamic.
Yeah, they're not aerodynamic at all. So they lose their velocity really quickly. But
Well,
you elongate it, it's much better.
we found that out with we got our hands on a bowling ball mortar a few years
Those
ago.
are fun.
Yeah, but the problem is the damn finger holes in a bowling ball screw up your trajectory all to hell and gone.
Yeah.
I mean, we fired 3 rounds out of that thing, and not a single one of them landed within 20 yards of the other one. I mean,
You clearly weren't drinking enough beer.
made an interesting whistling noise going out of the barrel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they sound really cool.
But it was, yeah.
Well, wooden plugs in there help
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
plug them.
Just fill them up, put concrete in them or something.
Well, one of the problems is though is that the holes actually make the ball slightly off balance.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Even if you
Like
put a
loaded
plug
dice.
in, you still don't have a balanced weight there.
No, true.
Yeah.
Whereas if you
Load it with something
use
that's
a
the same.
ball, it's pretty well all the same.
Yeah.
Well, just like many balls, many balls for muskets were a more elongated round than the standard ball. It's the reason why one of the reasons why they became that sort of round became more popular in Civil Wars because it did get the extra accuracy of not being a ball. The Burden sharpshooting rifle with its really odd shaped cartridge was one of the best ones in the Civil War, and it was because it was not a spear.
Yeah. Eric makes a good point. If material science can make a decent railgun that tolerates salt spray, imagine the potential impact for a battleship caliber unit. Having worked with the folks at Dahlgren and at NRL, where they had the baby railgun, yes, it's very interesting. However, the problem is power, because it takes megajoules of power to actually get that thing to go down the barrel. And interestingly, they put them in an aluminum sabot, and that is the liquid propellant. Excuse me, I got to take this one.
Oh, Jim's popular.
Uh-oh.
Now we get to toast.
Yeah.
Yeah, railguns. I'm not
Every time the VA wants them, the VA gets them because
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
we'd
you
like,
gotta take
we'd
that
like
one.
to get him back in the condition where we can do things to him
Yeah.
and him survive them.
Didn't he just have a follow up? I think he.
Yes, he had a follow up yesterday, and
Passed
they
by.
said, "Oh, it looks good, and we're going to start you on PT, and we're going to." But
Get him back.
you don't know with the VA. This could be for his tonsillectomy that he had when he was 12 years old. It's the
Yay,
VA.
the
You don't
VA.
know. I have plenty of experience with the VA, and I have to say that the VA here in Tiny Town, Texas, is excellent compared to what my experiences of the VA were back east.
Yeah, well, that's good. We've got some unfortunate stuff out here too with them.
But one of the things that they did to him was they put a couple of little screw jacks in his back, like the type you use to jack up your little econo box.
Oh, so they can adjust him over time.
Well, apparently they adjusted him to where they wanted him, and then packed it full of cement so that he can't be adjusted anymore.
Oh, okay.
But it puts him back to where he's supposed to be, or where they think he's supposed to be,
Okay.
as opposed to having him, everything's all crooked and cattywampus.
Cattywampus with sciatica, which apparently his sciatica has faded away, which is great.
Oh yeah, we're happy to have his health back to.
Yep.
Jonna said he came in the other day and was actually nice and happy.
What?
And well, I've said all along when she was talking about how grumpy, I haven't been able to tell the difference when he's grumpy or not.
Well, chronic pain will wreck your life. Chronic pain, you can't escape it. And you don't get any breaks, and you're tired all the time, and you hurt, and it's just like.
But I've been poking him since I've known him. It's just what I do. So
yeah,
I always get the same reaction.
Everyone has to have a hobby.
My hobby is to poke everybody. I don't just poke Jim. I poke Ian. I poke my wife.
Well, that's extra fun.
Okay, that's different, but
Equal opportunity.
Yeah. Everybody has buttons. You just have to find where they are.
If I'm nice to you, it means either you're not important to me or I don't like you.
Yeah, or you're boring. Yeah. That's
like
what a lot of women don't understand that about guys. It's like guys pick on each other and poke each other, and it's like, yeah, those pants make you look fat, ha ha ha, and that's just because that's what you do. And women don't understand that. If they're not picking on you, then they don't care about you.
Pretty much. Now, that's not. This is more true with veterans than it is with
True.
you know. But
And
then
I
again,
think a lot of the current generation of men coming up haven't gotten that memo. They're a little sensitive about things.
well, a lot of the current generation of men coming up are not masculine.
That's putting it mildly.
Well, birth control pills
Not-
probably has a lot to do with
Not
that.
talking about their sexual preferences.
Right.
They're not particularly manly.
Yeah. Were your
Sorry
ears burning, Jim?
I had to take a call from the VA because it was a scheduling call.
So I figured.
And I learned a long time ago dealing with the VA, if I don't take the call, I'm not going to come out on the good end of the stick.
Yeah, and you can't get back to them. You try
No.
and call back, and you're not going to get the right person. And
Because you go to a central number and they have no idea who called you.
yeah,
That's a good point, Rick. The only way to survive on a submarine is put a bit of armor over your hot buttons. That's pretty much true in the military by and large.
If you don't have a thick skin, you ain't going to make it.
Yeah.
Well, you can look at someone who's said something horrible about you and say, "Thank you. I didn't think you'd noticed." And that tends to work on me.
Oh, Jim, what's your shirt size, Jim?
XL
XL?
Yeah.
Okay.
covers up a multitude of sins.
Okay.
Oh yeah, she's got something we got to send you.
Perfect. That's what this is. I'll bring this to Writer's Cantina. I got a shirt for you. It has
that's
boats and planes on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
I've
nice.
just been going through. Oh, it even says submarine base. There we go. Submarine base shirt.
That looks
just
like
going
Pearl
through-
Harbor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, because it's got
Oh yeah, Arizona.
oh yeah, there's the Arizona Memorial. Anyway, it's a cool shirt.
Oh, that's
And
super.
it's a
Thank
nice-
you very much.
Yeah. We're just going through wardrobe and going through stuff. When was the last time you wore this? Never. All right, it needs to go to somebody else.
Somebody
I'm-
who will appreciate it.
Yeah.
Rick wants to know what brand it is.
Oh, it is Kalaheo. It's a Kalaheo. I'll spell it.
He's also a former submariner.
Oh.
Yeah. And he was at Pearl. So
And I have a boy who's
Uh-oh, you might have to he'll arm wrestle you for it.
now I'm still wearing shirts that I bought in exchange at Pearl Harbor. God, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Whenever I see a cool one like that, I just buy it on spec because I know
Yeah.
somebody's gonna want it. So
That's what I do.
yeah. See?
On spec my ass. With sunglasses on, maybe.
Hey, I have tastes in shirts that are, better than the average, so I find the good ones.
You have taste in shirts. We're not going to talk about what kind of taste.
Yes, let's talk about your shirt. I almost had to put sunglasses on.
One of these days we'll get together, Rick. I need to find out which boats you were on and whether or not I chased you years ago, which is very probable.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because you flew P3s, right?
Yeah, 18 years worth, 7,000 plus hours in them.
Well, you'll know if you sank the other guy if you have an admiral with you at the time.
Omaha, yes, I worked with Omaha at one point. Haggis is a taste, not described as a good taste. This is true, Eric.
Oh,
We got haggis one night in Kinloss, Scotland, in the officers' mess, and we had to be nice and try it. And I was trying my best to cover it up with what else was on my plate.
Oh well, I guess you put enough other stuff on that. Maybe you douse it in whiskey or something first.
Yeah. Now that was the start of the toast. Was the
I'll be right back.
the good Macallan, the 25-year-old.
Ah. So is this a Robert Burns night or something like that?
Yep,
Figures.
Yeah. We happen to be in the right place at the wrong time.
Yeah. Oh well. At least there was some good poetry if you could comprehend what they're saying.
By the time it got to the poetry, enough alcohol had been consumed on both sides that it was.
Hitman. Yeah.
Okay, everybody else is clapping, so I'll clap too.
Yeah. Scottish. What
Yeah.
can you say? Oh well.
They fly the hell out of the airplane, so
Well, that's good.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
He found one that has P-38s and a few other things on it.
Mustang.
Yeah, I like that. The English and Scots scoured the world for spices that they totally ignore.
Yes, that is true. Other than the Indians that have moved to London
Right. Well,
and determined that they are going to outspice every Indian in the world. And they do.
Well,
that's what I understand.
I will say that the English make the best breakfast in the world. The
Sorry.
English full breakfast cannot be touched by anybody else. But they figured after they had breakfast, nobody needs another meal.
Yeah.
I don't know about baked beans for breakfast, though. I'm not quite.
You guys are talking about the UK now.
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah.
Sorry, the cat brought in a live rodent, which I had to catch and take back outside. So it's like, kill him. Don't just bring him in and turn him loose.
He brought it in for you to have the fun of killing, and so you could have a nice meal.
It was so tiny. It was a little shrew. So it's like, you're going outside. Out.
Well,
They're
when you're
trying to
training a kitten, you bring them the small ones. You don't bring them the ones the size they are.
Yeah, she's very thoughtful.
Yeah. My daughter's cat brings in mice and snakes, both of which are alive.
Yeah.
And my daughter hates snakes
Oh.
and is trying to keep the kids from A, playing with a snake, or B, playing with the mice.
And C, adopting them.
Yeah.
I have to
We've
rescue
wasted another
the
hour of
from
your
my
time,
chickens.
folks.
Oh, yep. Look at that.
Woohoo.
Gordon and Nancy, thank you very much for coming on and joining us. Really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Yeah, thanks.
And we will see you next month.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
When
will.
Dwelling in the Creek Don't Rise.
Yeah.
And we'll talk saddles.
Yeah.
There will be more horse and saddle talk.
And to all of you in the chat, thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. Y'all are why we do this, for whatever version of this is. And Sanford, thanks for being the token today. For
Not a problem, but I'm going to have to disagree with all those who are talking about, like Kermit and such, are talking about having American breakfast that they like.
Yeah.
None of the ones you got have black pudding on them, so they can't be as good as the British one.
And on that note, folks,
I'm leaving.
remember, don't sweat the petty stuff. Don't fed the sweaty stuff. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.